Well, so I was asking you about Bubba Watson, and I know you were around a part of his team for a number of years.
Yeah.
And during that period of time, how many wins did Bubba have?
Gosh, about 6 or 7. I actually don't know exactly.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Because if you've had like 5 or 6 wins,
yeah.
I bet you there's about 6 or 7 top 3s.
Yeah. Yeah.
And those are significant.
They are. I mean, there's a lot of near wins.
Yeah.
A lot of times we had a putt in a playoff. I mean, almost won Whistling Straits.
Yeah.
2010.
And those are the kind of things that set up those victories to come. So
they do.
It's not like, I've been fortunate enough to have 7 wins, but, there's a lot that went in before that.
Right.
And
well, that's the same with Bubba. I mean, here's a guy who literally hadn't won anything, and he's so close.
Right.
But just not quite there.
Right.
And, brought a little structure into his life, and he could take off, he could utilize that talent that he already had.
Right.
You just tightened it up a little bit.
Right.
It was already a Ferrari. Just give it a little tune-up, and then you just need to drive him. He's just such a great player. He always will be.
Yeah.
He was always so natural at the game.
Yeah.
But, really adding like nutrition and bringing in, physical fitness into his life, those were big factors. I always talk about this when we talk about, making someone mentally tougher, right? Like a sports psychologist can work on your mind, and he can make you tougher internally, and hope that helps the external performance.
Right.
But I've always said that it goes both ways.
Right.
You could actually trim up the external to make the internal stronger.
Exactly.
So, you can get a guy stronger. You can get him looking better. Confidence is a funny thing. We hear that all the time, like, oh, a guy was real confident this week. Why'd you win? I just felt real confident.
Right.
Well, the real question is, what makes players confident?
Yeah.
If that's helping wins, what's causing that?
Right.
And that's really what we can say is, hey, maybe we got to trim down a couple pounds off the old belly, off the gut. Maybe we have to wear tighter fitting clothes.
Yeah, and it's not that unusual for these players to not really know what the formula is, even though they might have had a couple of wins,
Right.
How did that happen? And so if you have support around you and dialogue over time, you can see things unfold based upon repetition and that kind of thing. And
exactly, and providing structure for them. You really don't know, because they don't know. You got to learn them, and then you got to try a whole bunch of things.
Yeah.
And I've done that with all my players. I've tried different things.
And sometimes it's kind of vague what happened, and what was the formula for this type victory. And I think if you have a dialogue, you can kind of unpack that and get some answers to use going forward.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But when you were with Bubba, he won the Masters and that kind of thing, and that had to be exciting to be a part of that, and nerve-wracking and all of that.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to treat every tournament, even if it wasn't. I tried to treat each tournament as it was the exact same. It doesn't matter. It really didn't matter.
Right.
I just went through the motions as consistent as possible. That Sunday morning we woke up, like nothing changed.
Right.
I still did everything. You start throwing different things. You put expectations on it.
Well, and I would bet you even use the same language. Like
same
with
language.
Chip Beck, from the get-go, we would talk about playing the course.
Yeah.
And so, like, if we were at Quad Cities on the first tee on Thursday, let's get after this golf course. And then when you start improving, when you're at the British Open or Augusta on Sunday, you got a chance to a chance to win. Same language. Let's get after it.
Verbiage is so important.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, when we used to work out, that was one of the things. I probably valued the time in between the sets and the repetition more than I did the actual sets and repetition and the exercise, because that was a time where I could really build him up, build his confidence, learn a little bit from him, and instill that before he goes out and plays.
Yeah.
So that was huge to kind of it would be I would get to do some life coaching before he got out there and played.
And you learn what language empowers a given individual, and what works for Bubba might not work for, Jordan Spieth or Chip Beck or anybody like that. And so it takes time to develop that knowledge and to use it properly.
Absolutely. All right. Well, went a little long here. Not too bad though. Not too bad. Stopped on that hill. That helped a little bit, huh?
Yeah.
What do you think about this, actually? Before I grab a club, what do you think? You haven't seen my game.
Right.
That's a tough thing.
Right.
You have no idea what I'm good at. You don't know if I'm more comfortable putting this, or if I if I'm more comfortable chipping it. What do you think?
Well, when I look at a shot like this,
Yeah.
I always feel like, the lowest to the ground gets a more consistent release if you're going to chip it. And so if you were going to chip this, you could almost chip it with like a 6 or 7 iron because you only need to carry, I don't know, 3 feet.
Okay.
But some people don't have that shot.
Hey, let's find out.
Okay.
6 iron or 7 iron?
A little 7 iron.
Let's do this.
All right.
They get so many clubs, so many shots. It's really hard to choose which ones.
Well,
I
anyway,
have that same problem.
Hit this. I want to see you hit it.
Oh, you want to see it right now?
Yeah.
Well, actually, I wanted to talk to you about this really
Oh,
quickly.
okay.
This actually, I thought, was the most difficult part of caddying.
Huh.
Out in the fairway, someone's asked me, hey, I got 180 yards.
Yeah.
Right? And I just knew that's going to be a stock 6 iron.
Yeah.
It became a little bit easier out there in the fairway.
Yeah.
But when we had shorter shots like this, and the player would say, what do you think? I'm
Right
like,
here?
yeah, right here.
Yeah.
On the creativity aspect.
Yeah, you want to know what I really think? Well, I'll tell you what I really think.
Okay.
I think if a player's asking me on this shot right here that he's not very good with his chip and
That's right.
clubs.
And that's what's interesting because, this requires, in my personal opinion, more feel than anything else.
Exactly.
I mean, this is where the creativity in the field really can come out.
So I don't know if, this was back in the day, Tom Percher had as good a swing as you would ever see.
Okay.
And he won, I want to say, 2 or 3 times.
All right.
He had a long career. I caddied for him one time in Williamsburg, and he's the first guy that ever asked me what on a regular basis, what do I chip this shot with?
Huh.
And it felt to me like he was kind of passing the buck, I mean,
Well,
I've never been asked those questions.
Does that give him an opportunity to maybe blame you if you don't? Did you
It
think it was for that?
It felt like that.
Okay.
It felt like that. Can't crawl his head, but it felt like that.
Because this right here, I mean, I asked you because that's a tough question that I got sometimes,
Right.
and I was like, honestly, I don't know. What are you feeling like? I mean, you could hit this high, you could hit it low.
So to me,
I'm not them.
then maybe I'm not a scientist or a physicist of the physics of a shot, but it makes sense to me that the lower it is to the ground, the less spin, the more predictable you'll get in a run out.
That makes sense.
And so I would think a 7 iron, and to me, you almost hit this like it's a putt with a 7 iron.
Yeah. I don't even know if that's quantifiable. I mean, out there in the fairway, 180, we know that's a 6 because we've actually hit tons of shots and we've measured that.
Right.
We don't really measure this. This is difficult to know.
Yeah.
This is just something you kind of just feel out. Just kind of take a 7 and just putt it.
A little firm.
A little firm up and
that's
over.
a good spot. That's like 6 feet uphill. That's what
Yeah.
you want. Hit a putt with this now.
Okay.
I'm curious. Just hit a putt.
Yeah, for sure. Which is actually going to get it on the ground even faster.
Yeah, the thing of it is, a lot of times with players, and they'll mishit a putt, and it'll go like 5 or 6 feet, and then they'll say, well, a missed putt from this position is better than a missed chip. And so they'll hit a putt from here. Made it.
Ooh, early calling.
So that's, it looks like you could do either of those, but you seem more comfortable with the putter there.
All right, you ever, I noticed on the LPGA Tour, there's a lot of caddies lining up their player right before they hit something like a 4-footer. Even on a 4-footer, they're getting lined up.
Yeah.
I didn't see that on the PGA Tour too often. I never
No.
saw really players asking for alignment on a 4-footer.
The only player I've ever done that with was with Mike Reed, and that was only on occasion. And so, I mean, it's been known to happen. I think Andy used to do that with Johnny Miller, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stand behind him, and then right before he hit, you just step to the side.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Thank you.
So what I was looking for right there was I was watching your eyes, because a lot of times players, especially amateurs, but tour players too, they'll hit it and they'll follow it immediately, which means they haven't finished the stroke.
Because they want to see where it goes.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's a good idea to just finish your stroke and then look.
So it's kind of just keeping the head down, eyes directly
Yeah.
over top of the ball.
Yeah. And so
Instead of
yeah,
head
like
down.
and if you were like Aaron and you were looking up, I would hold this right here, and he would get the idea. Oh yeah,
yeah.
I've been doing that, and I need to finish your stroke.
Okay, yeah, you keep it down.
And then you look.
And then you look.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've noticed that with players. I worked for a guy, Steve Wheatcroft, one time, and he never lifted his head. He actually always just kind of swiveled it, right? So he'd always keep in mind that eye point, just constantly rocking his head. I really like that.
Did you like it?
I liked it.
I think that's the way to go.
Because he never did this. I think
Yeah.
you completely change everything and the dynamics
do,
of everything.
and-
we do it. He stayed on it constantly.
And somebody I completely respect that I worked for, 25, 30 years ago, Howard Twitty, he's out here teaching putting, and he's a great guy and a great putter, and he says that, the great putters all do that. They're not looking like this.
Yeah.
They're following their line, looking back,
Well,
following.
you have to stay on that plane.
Yeah.
I mean, think
Yeah.
about it. Like, when we shoot a basketball or shoot a gun, we're
Right.
always directly behind it.
Right.
And when we line up a putt, we're directly behind it, and then we step to the side. Be like
Right.
kind of shooting a gun to the side.
Right.
It kind of messes you up a little
Yes,
bit
it does,
optically.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, I think that's pretty much it. I think we got a lot of good tips right there.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
Absolutely, I love that.
Me too.
I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you sharing all your information and your wisdom with our listeners. Guys, make sure you subscribe below. And thanks again, FishFit, Dave
Thanks,
Woosley.
Fish.
Thanks for sharing your 25 years of experience.
It
See you
was
next
fun.
time, guys. Because I'm cut. See that muscle right there? No, put that away. Don't ever try to show up the player. Jeez.
Down, Caddies, down. Axley is actually trying to make his more, he's left-handed, he's trying to make